Hello everybody, my name is Mason Lloyd, and my fiber today is the horsehair fiber. So some basic characteristics of the fiber is that it is a hollow fiber, which makes it very lightweight. But even though it's lightweight, it has been described as stiff, and it's rough and coarse, and those qualifications also make it durable. So even though it's lightweight, it's also a very strong, very strong fiber. The fiber is heat resistant. It's not hydrophilic, so it doesn't absorb water very quickly. It still will, just not as quickly as a more hydrophilic fiber. And it also takes dye very easily. So, how is horsehair gathered and processed? So gathering horsehair mostly comes from shearing the horse's mane or tail. Some differences there is that the mane is soft, short, and finer, shorter, softer than the tail, where the tail is longer, coarser, and overall stronger, even though they are both very strong. And shearing the horse is kind of like giving it a haircut, so it's not going to hurt it in any sort of way unless you get too close to the hair, which I'll touch upon a little bit later. And the difference between shearing a horse when it's alive or gathering the hair when the horse is already passed due to natural causes. So if the horse is alive and you keep shearing it, then it's like a renewable fiber. But if the horse is already passed, then you can gather that hair, and it's a more ethical way to do it because the horse has already passed. They're not going to slaughter the horse for the hair. They're just going to let it live out its life or cut it while it's still alive. And then processing that fiber, it can either be spun or woven into a fabric, mostly used for upholstery, so different kinds of furnitures. It's also been utilized in certain clothing, specifically like, men's suits, giving it that structure. And also in various sorts of decor like curtains and whatnot for household and industrial purposes. And if horsehair is to be used with another fabric, it's either sewn in with a different kind of fiber or it's blended with another type of fiber. Specifically, cotton is the most popular blend for horsehair. But the raw fiber, the function can be processed in a variety of ways to give the fiber like a more practical sense, which I'll touch upon later, versus, art and fashion and such like that. So various industries, uses of the fiber, and then also a brief history. So starting with a timeline here about how horsehair has kind of evolved and the uses of it. So pre-1700s, it was more function over fashion, used for like violin bows, dental floss, fishing line, like different kinds of brushes, toothbrushes, hairbrushes, and so on and so forth. Around the 18th century, there was a shift to luxury. We saw it in wigs, we saw it in that furniture to stuff it, and also the fabric on the outside, the upholstery, and also for certain undergarments since it was such a structural fiber. And then towards the 19th century, the 1800s, this is when horsehair was at its peak with luxury furnishings, first class carts like in trains and whatnot, saw horsehair everywhere. Various garments, this is when we saw blending became big, so it was used in fashion more and more. And with the Industrial Revolution, it just took off. But then in the 20th century, 1900s, there was synthetic fibers, so there was a decline in it, but it still remained luxury in a niche artisan market, so to speak. And nowadays, we see it in a variety of furnitures, fashions, and other industries with a more eco-friendly, sustainable, natural fiber boost coming more into play as synthetics are becoming less and less sustainable. So horsehair today, in non-fashion related senses, is we see it, like I said, in violin bows. We also see it in paintbrushes, furniture, wall plaster, some fishing line, even though that's mostly synthetic now, more stuff like that. As far as fashion goes, we see it sewn into hems to give hems more structure. We see a lot interlining for garments, and also certain accessories with handbags being a very big market. And then some designers that use it today, Louise Bennett's did a collection utilizing lots of horsehair. Nancy Volt Beringer used horsehair to demonstrate her structural expertise. And the coat in the middle was made by Issey Miyake, a Japanese artist who is really good at utilizing horsehair in a variety of ways. So effects of the fiber on climate, environment, and horses just in general. So some harmful traditions, there is a Spanish tradition called the shearing of the beast, which is essentially where a bunch of dudes come and they wrestle wild horses and shear them in a small Spanish village. It's centuries old. It dates back a while, but it's a harmful tradition since it eliminates the horse's natural coats for the summer, so that sometimes they get ill, and it can damage the horse, obviously, because they're manhandling them. But if used ethically, shearing the horse is painless, and if the horse is passed naturally, it obviously cannot feel that pain. And horsehair is naturally biodegradable, so it won't be sitting in a landfill. So if it's used in a garment, or if it's used in like a mattress filling, it's going to naturally biodegrade, unlike the synthetic counterparts. However, it does take dye well, and some of those dyes can pollute waterways, and it can also irritate the skin, or too much exposure can cause internal issues and internal irritants. This is my bibliography. Thank you for listening to my presentation about horsehair.